When Sophie became pregnant with Ryan, my parents not only supported me, but also proposed a family contract. I would divorce amicably, giving up my assets and my wifely status to Sophie to maintain the company's image. They saw me as a number on paper. As a divorce lawyer, I decided to use the law and the very contracts they worshipped to destroy their empire. If you love real-life stories, chilling revenge, and dark family secrets, hit that subscribe button now. You're about to step into a world where the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. My name is Madison Blake, and the first contract I ever signed without reading the fine print was my marriage certificate. Strange, isn't it? A divorce attorney who can disassemble a prenup in under an hour, who can smell lies, the way sharks smell blood. In the water, somehow failed to examine the one contract that determined the trajectory of her own life. I used to think that irony was amusing. Now it feels like a prophecy I ignored. If you're here with me, listen carefully, breathe slowly, and let each detail sink deeper and deeper into focus. Because what happened next shattered every illusion I had ever built about love, loyalty, and family. I had just finished one of the biggest cases of my career, exposing a wealthy husband who had tried to hide assets overseas. I remember the moment the judge ruled in favor of my client. The woman burst into tears, pure relief flooding her face, and I squeezed her hands and whispered, "You're free now." A simple sentence, but it clung to me like static, echoing in a place I hadn't yet recognized as cracking. By the time the office lights dimmed and the building emptied, I was exhausted. The city of Los Angeles glittered beyond my window, a constellation built on ambition and sleeplessness. I packed my bag, rode the elevator down, and just as I stepped into the lobby, my phone buzzed. It was my mother, Linda Blake, the kind of woman who could organize a charity gala and destroy a person's spirit in the same breath. She said, "Sweetheart, we need you to come home. It's important." Her tone wasn't frantic, it was controlled, rehearsed. That was my first warning. I drove to the Blake family home in Brentwood, an architectural masterpiece that felt more like a showroom than a place where people lived. The white marble floors echoed under my heels as I walked inside, and that's when I saw them all gathered in the living room, like a panel waiting to deliver a verdict. My father, Mark Blake, a man who treated affection like a limited resource. My husband, Ryan Blake, whose confidence had once felt captivating, but lately felt rehearsed. And my younger sister Sophie standing with her arms wrapped around her midsection. My heart tightened. Sophie's posture was unusual, protective in a way I had never seen. And then I saw the gentle swell of her stomach, as undeniable as a slap across the face. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, voice trembling. "Maddie, I'm pregnant." I didn't breathe. Not at first. The room seemed to tilt the chandelier above, warping into a smear of refracted light. And somewhere in the blur, I felt the subtle whisper inside myself: breathe deeply, stay present, look closer. A strange calm washed over me, not peace but focus sharp enough to cut. My father cleared his throat. He always did that right before delivering something unpleasant. "Madison," he began, "we know this is difficult." He said it as though difficulty were a mild inconvenience. My mother stepped forward. Her touch on my arm was gentle, but her eyes were calculating. "The baby," she said softly, "is Ryan's." A hollow silence followed, the kind that swallows sound, the kind that rewrites a life in a single breath. Ryan didn't deny it. He didn't flinch. He looked at me with the same steady gaze he used on investors, the same voice that once convinced me he loved me. "It was a mistake," he said, "but Sophie needs support, and the baby needs a real family." A real family. As if I were somehow counterfeit. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Maddie, I was lonely, and Ryan, he was just there for me." Her words dissolved into sobs. But even then, her makeup didn't smudge. She'd always known how to cry beautifully. That was when everything crystallized. The distance between them. The way they stood. The way my parents watched them. Not with judgment, but with approval. My father spoke next, gesturing toward the marble coffee table, where a folder lay neatly placed. We've discussed the best course of action. Blake and Co. can't afford a scandal right now. The press would destroy us if they caught wind of internal conflict. Internal conflict. That was what they called my husband impregnating my sister. My mother nodded as if this were all rational. We believe the right solution is a discreet, amicable divorce. Ryan and Sophie can marry before the baby arrives. It would provide stability and protect the family image. Protect the image. Not protect me. Not protect the truth. Just the brand, the empire, the illusion. I felt myself drifting for a split second, like my mind wanted to float above the moment to avoid the pain. But something inside me whispered again, focus, see it clearly, don't look away. And I didn't. My sister couldn't meet my eyes. Ryan stepped closer, voice annoyingly calm. I'm sorry, Madison, but this is what makes sense. Makes sense to him, to them. A plan drafted behind my back like a business deal. I straightened my posture, pressing down the tremor in my chest. I had seen women break in courtrooms, watched their faces crumble when they learned the truth about their husbands, but I had never understood the specific flavor of that pain until now. The betrayal didn't just sting, it hollowed. And then unexpectedly, clarity sliced through me like a cold blade. They thought I would collapse. They thought I would cry, fall apart, or beg. They thought I would be the reasonable one. The daughter who always cleaned up the messes. The wife who never challenged the attorney who compartmentalized. They thought they had already written my part in the script, but they underestimated the one fact that mattered most. I don't break, I calculate. I lifted my chin. My voice came out softer than I expected. Soft but steady. So let me get this straight, I said. All of you decided my marriage, my future, my life was negotiable. And you made this plan without even speaking to me, my mother whispered. We didn't want to make it harder for you. The hypocrisy almost made me laugh. For a moment, no one breathed. And then I felt something shift inside me, an awakening, a quiet storm forming behind my ribs. Lean in, feel this with me. This is the moment everything changes. I smiled, a small, controlled smile that felt foreign on my lips. Okay, I said softly. If this is what you want, then let's talk terms, because they forgot who I am. I don't lose, and I never ever lose on contracts. I didn't sleep that night. People think heartbreak keeps you awake, but betrayal is quieter, sharper. It slices you open from the inside and then whispers, stay awake. Pay attention. Look deeper. I lay on the couch in the guest room of my own home, because yes, I refused to sleep next to the man who had confessed to impregnating my sister. But even the couch felt contaminated by the weight of what I now knew. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sophie clutching her stomach. I saw Ryan's calm expression. I saw the satisfaction my parents didn't bother to hide. And beneath all of that, I heard the same quiet pulse breathe deeply. Don't break. This is information, not pain. The attorney in me was gathering evidence. The woman in me was burning. By morning, I had assembled the first folder. Not a legal one, an emotional one. Memories, conversations, late-night arguments I brushed aside because I thought marriage was supposed to feel heavy sometimes. Every incident that seemed small at the time formed a clearer pattern now. And when morning light finally filtered through the blinds, the clarity hardened into resolve. I brewed coffee black and scorching because I needed something to anchor me. When Ryan walked into the kitchen shirtless, acting like we were in some awkward but manageable marriage rough patch, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just absence. The kind that comes right before precision. He sat across from me. We should talk, he said gently. I stirred my coffee slowly and forced myself to make eye contact. Focus. Observe. Don't absorb. There's nothing to talk about, I replied. Not yet. He shifted uncomfortably. Your parents just want what's best for the family, for the company, for Sophie. The company. There it was again, the altar on which everything could be sacrificed. My parents had spent decades building Blake & Co. properties, and somewhere along the way they stopped seeing me as a daughter and started seeing me as an asset. A tool. A symbol. My marriage to Ryan had been treated the same way now that I could see through the fog. An acquisition. not a union. You knew, I said quietly. You've known for months how they operate, how they think. And you still did this. Ryan's jaw tightened. It wasn't planned. Of course it wasn't planned, I said. But it was convenient. He rubbed his face. Madison, please, you're strong. You'll land on your feet, you always do. There it was. The patronizing reassurance that pretended to be praise but felt like dismissal. You and Sophie, I said slowly, deserve each other. He didn't know how to answer that. The silence between us stretched thin as fishing line ready to snap. I grabbed my bag. I'm meeting my parents at the office. His eyebrows lifted. You're going to negotiate already. A small, wicked smile spread across my lips. You have no idea. As I walked out, I whispered internally, stay sharp. Every word they say is leverage. Every pause is a confession. The Blake & Co. headquarters sat at the edge of downtown Los Angeles. A sleek glass building with our family name gleaming like a crown on top. I had grown up in its hallways doing homework in conference rooms, while my parents negotiated million-dollar deals. Most kids learned bedtime stories. I learned asset valuation and brand preservation. When I stepped into the boardroom, both of them were already there. My father, Mark Blake, wore his usual crisp navy suit, the same one he wore to important negotiations. My mother, Linda, had a tablet open and a stack of papers arranged with perfect symmetry. They were prepared, not to comfort me, but to finalize their plan. Madison, my father said as he stood to greet me. Thank you for coming. This will all be easier if we keep emotion out of it. That sentence alone told me everything. I sat down across from them, legs crossed, posture straight, not as their daughter, as their equal, as their opponent. My mother pushed a document toward me. We've drafted a proposal. It outlines an amicable divorce settlement, financial compensation, and a timeline for the public announcement. I didn't touch the paper. You're moving fast. We don't have time to waste, she replied. The longer we wait, the more complicated it becomes. Sophie is already in her second trimester. I blinked. Second trimester. They had known for months. Not days, not weeks, months. And no one told me, not my parents, not my husband, not my sister. A rush of cold clarity spread through my chest. Let it sink in, deeper. Let the truth anchor you instead of drowning you. My father continued. We believe this arrangement will protect all parties involved, especially you. Chaos never benefits the firstborn. Ah, yes, the Blake logic. I was the dependable one, the one who could survive anything, the one designed to absorb fallout. My voice was calm when I spoke. You've always treated the family like a company, and me like one of its assets. My mother softened her expression as if she knew what empathy looked like, but could never quite feel it. We just want harmony. Madison, you know Sophie, she's fragile. Fragile. The same excuse they'd used since childhood when she broke rules, hearts, promises. Sophie was fragile, so everyone else had to be sturdy, especially me. Your sister needs Ryan, my mother added. The baby needs a father. And what do I need? I asked quietly. My parents froze. Not because they didn't know the answer, but because they had never considered the question. My father cleared his throat. You're strong, Madison. You'll rebuild. You always do. There it was again, the mantra they clung to. My mother tapped the tablet. We've set aside a generous settlement package, asset stocks, and a sizable trust enough to provide you with independence and comfort. I finally reached forward and touched the edge of the paper. Just touched it, enough to make them think I was considering it, enough to make them relax. You're offering to buy my silence, I said. My mother opened her mouth, then shut it again. My father didn't bother denying it. I leaned back in my chair. Do you want to know what I do every day? My father frowned. Madison, this isn't... But I continued anyway, voice low resonant. I spend my time dismantling carefully constructed narratives. I take powerful men apart. Piece by piece, I expose lies hidden in spreadsheets, emails, calendars. Do you think I don't recognize a cover-up when I see one? Their expressions shifted. Good. Let the truth crawl under their skin. I folded my hands and smiled. A soft, chilling smile I barely recognized as my own. Lean closer. Feel the shift. This is the moment they begin to realize, you taught me business, I said, but law strategy consequence. I learned that myself. And I promise you this, whatever game you think you're playing, you have underestimated the player. My father stiffened. Are you threatening us? No, I said sweetly, I'm informing you. For the first time, my mother looked genuinely nervous. Madison, please, let's approach this intelligently. Oh, we will, I said. Trust me, Mom. I'm finally thinking like a Blake. Their eyes widened, they understood. But they were too late. I stood, collected my bag, and headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, I whispered, not to them, but to myself. This is step one, and you're not afraid. Go deeper. See everything. Miss nothing, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't their daughter, I was their opponent. And I was just getting started. When I stepped out of the boardroom, my heels clicking against the polished floor, I felt them watching me. My parents weren't used to losing control. They weren't used to being challenged. And they certainly weren't used to seeing their eldest daughter walk away without seeking permission, but I didn't look back. If I had, I might have seen fear flicker across their faces. Instead, I focused on the elevators, the descending hum, the metallic doors sliding open. Breathe. Stay sharp. Every step is strategy, I reminded myself. The elevator brought me down to the lobby, a cathedral of glass and steel where employees scurried past with laptops and coffee cups. People who had known me since childhood waved politely. They had always seen me as part of the Blake legacy. They had no idea the legacy was already on fire. I stepped outside. Los Angeles heat pressed against my skin, like a warning. I inhaled long and slow, letting the city noise bleed into a single hum, and that was when my phone buzzed. Sophie. For a moment, I considered ignoring the call, but no. I needed to hear her voice. I needed to know whether she was a pawn, a liar, or a coward. I answered, what? She sniffled immediately, the familiar tremble in her breath. The same one she used when she wanted people to rush to her side, Maddie. Can we talk? I closed my eyes. Stay calm. Listen carefully. Every word is evidence. Go on, I said. I didn't want it to happen this way, she whispered. I swear I didn't. I tried to stop things with Ryan. I tried so many times. I laughed, soft, humorless. Did you try before or after the second trimester? Silence. Then a tiny sob. I was scared. You should be. I could almost feel her flinch through the phone. Mom and Dad said you'd understand. She said, they said you'd help us stay a family. A family, I repeated. Is that what you think this is? Another sob. But this time I heard something under it. Not guilt. Expectation. She thought her tears would save her like they always had. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know what to do. You could have stayed away from my husband, I said. That usually works. Her breath hitched. Then she said something that told me everything I needed to know. Ryan said you were too focused on work, that you didn't make him feel appreciated. My fingers tightened around the phone. There it was. The shift. Pay attention, I told myself. This is the real voice, the truth beneath the crying. You blamed me, I said quietly. No, You blamed me, I repeated. She didn't answer. The silence was her confession. I ended the call without another word. I drove straight to the law firm where I worked. Coleman and Price, one of the most aggressive family law firms in California. The place where I had built my reputation. The place where I felt strangely more at home than anywhere else. There was only one person I needed to see today. Harper Cole, my colleague, my sometimes rival, and the most intuitive attorney I had ever met. Harper was sitting at her desk, glasses perched on the bridge of her nose, stacks of case files surrounding her like fortifications. When she saw me, she raised an eyebrow. You look like someone who just discovered a corpse in her living room, she said. Close, I replied. I found betrayal multiplying. She didn't joke, didn't tease. Harper had a gift she could read. Emotional weather like storm patterns. Sit, she said. I sat. Talk? So I did. Not everything. Not the raw pain, but the facts. The betrayal, the pregnancy, the family proposal, the draft divorce settlement. The second trimester revelation. I laid it out like a case file. Clean, cold, surgical. Harper didn't interrupt once. She listened with the stillness of a sniper. When I finished, she removed her glasses and leaned back. Well, she said calmly, your family is garbage. Despite everything, I felt a laugh escape, a weak one but real. What do I do? I asked. She looked at me with a focus that felt almost physical. Do what you're best at, she said. Win, her voice lowered. But this time, you're not doing it for a client. You're doing it for yourself. And trust me, there is nothing more dangerous than a lawyer personally involved. I felt a tremor run through me. Not fear energy. Harper continued. First, we gather information. We map out leverage points. Financial, emotional, legal. We identify every vulnerability they have. My parents, I asked. Everyone, she said. Your parents. Ryan, Sophie. The company. If they're going to treat this like a hostile takeover, then we treat it like litigation. I nodded slowly, letting her words sink in. Deeper, deeper. Let clarity anchor you. And Madison Harper added softly, don't underestimate what you're capable of. You've spent years protecting people from men like your husband and families like your own. You already know where to strike. She was right, and I hated how right she was. But there was one thing keeping me tethered. One thing pulling me forward. My dignity wasn't negotiable. My justice wasn't negotiable. My silence wasn't for sale. I leaned forward. We start today. Harper smiled, sharp approving. Good, I'll prepare a preliminary plan. When I left her office, the sky had darkened, stormy clouds rolling in over the city. Los Angeles rarely had real storms, but today felt different. Charged, heavy, expectant. I walked to my car, each step echoing with purpose. Every detail of the past 24 hours replayed in sharper and sharper resolution, not to wound me, but to guide me. You're awake now, the inner voice whispered. You see everything. You miss nothing. Go deeper. Take control. I rested my hands on the steering wheel and whispered to myself, this is war. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt alive. The storm over Los Angeles rolled in by late afternoon, darkening the sky until the city lights flickered on like nervous stars. I sat in my car for a long moment after leaving the firm, listening to the muted thunder and letting it settle inside me. Something about storms always felt like a warning or a cleansing, and right now I needed both. My phone buzzed again. This time the name flashing across the screen was Ryan. I stared at it, feeling nothing. Not anger, not grief. Just a cool, steady detachment that reminded me of cross-examining a hostile witness. Breathe slowly. Stay present. Control the rhythm, I told myself. Then I answered, Madison, he said immediately. Your parents told me you walked out of the meeting. Can we please talk? I think you misunderstood. Misunderstood. The arrogance of that word almost made me smile. What exactly, I asked calmly, did I misunderstand? A pause, then. A sigh. I know you're hurt. I know this is a lot, but we never meant to blindside you. We just didn't know how to tell you. You mean I said you didn't know how to tell me that while I was sleeping next to you? You were sleeping with my sister. I let the silence sit. Let him feel the weight of truth. Let him sink deeper into discomfort, I murmured inside myself. Don't let him surface too soon. Madison. He finally whispered, I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. I replied, my voice steady as a blade, repeatedly, deliberately. For months, another silence. Then I just want us to handle this with grace. Grace. The word twisted like a knife. Don't worry, I said softly, I'll be graceful. And I hung up. Instead of driving home, I went to the one place where I knew I could think clearly, my office. Not the firm, my home office in West Hollywood. It was a minimalist space with dark wood shelves, 2 monitors, a glass desk, and walls lined with legal texts. I had always found comfort in structure and logic, in the sharpness of facts. Tonight I needed that sharpness more than ever. I turned on the lamp, the amber light casting a glow across the desk. Then I spread my notebook open and wrote a single word at the top of the page. Evidence. If my family wanted to treat this like a merger, then fine. I would treat it like litigation. I wrote down categories: financial, emotional, legal, interpersonal, reputational. Under each, I began listing points, observations, dates, suspicions that now felt like neon signs. 1. Financial. Ryan had access to joint accounts. He handled our investments. I had always trusted him, but trust was precisely what he exploited. I'd need to trace transactions, offshore accounts, transfers, anything unusual. 2. Emotional patterns of manipulation. Gaslighting. His sudden late nights, his growing emotional distance aligned suspiciously with Sophie's visits. 3. Legal Blake & Co.'s questionable tax strategies. Quiet land deals. My father closed last year. Rumors of unregistered partnerships. Potential conflicts of interest with Ryan's startup. 4. Interpersonal. My mother's over-involvement. My father's secrecy. Sophie's dependency. Patterns that showed collusion rather than coincidence. 5. Reputational. Everything. The Blake family was terrified of losing, and everything I could leverage. The list grew longer and sharper. Then I flipped the page and wrote another word: allies. The list was much shorter. Harper. That was it. The only person who didn't have a stake in my downfall. I exhaled long and slow, letting the weight lift. Good. Sink into the clarity. Let it guide you. But clarity wasn't enough, I needed data. I opened my laptop and pulled up the joint bank statements, scanning for anomalies. Within minutes, I found them transfers labeled consulting fees, maintenance, vague descriptors that meant nothing but masked everything. Ryan had been funneling money somewhere. Then I searched through emails. Ryan wasn't sloppy, but he wasn't as meticulous as I was. After 2 hours, I found what I needed. A chain of messages between him and my father discussing future integration plans, family restructuring, and the worst line of all: Madison will adapt, she always does. The words felt like acid in my chest. I leaned back, letting the rage simmer, not explode. Rage was useless unless directed. Let it sharpen, not burn. Breathe. Deeper, colder, clearer. Just then a notification popped up on my desktop. A message from Harper. Harper, we need to talk. Found something you'll want to see. I replied immediately. Me. What is it? Harper. Not over text. Come in early tomorrow. Bring caffeine. That was enough to keep me awake for several more hours. I went to bed just before dawn, but sleep came in fragments broken by flashes of memory. My parents' calculating stares, Sophie's trembling voice, Ryan's calm betrayal. When morning arrived, I felt wired but determined. I reached the office before sunrise. The halls were empty except for the cleaning crew, and the quiet made everything feel more urgent. Harper was already in her office, hair in a messy bun, a large thermos beside her. She didn't waste time. She pushed an envelope across the desk. Look, she said. I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots from public corporate filings, including one I had never seen before. A document showing that my father had recently shifted part of the Blake & Co. assets into a new trust. A trust listing beneficiaries: Mark Blake, Linda Blake, Ryan Blake, Sophie Blake. But not me. Not the eldest daughter. Not the attorney who had spent years representing the family. My chest tightened, not with hurt but with recognition. They're cutting me out, I whispered. Harper nodded. You were never supposed to be part of their long-term plan. Not once. Sophie became useful. Useful. That word tasted poisonous. And here's the kicker, Harper said, leaning forward. If you sign their divorce agreement as is, you forfeit your stake in the company permanently. They'll use it as consent to the new structure. I felt a chill race down my spine. Of course. Of course, this wasn't just betrayal of the heart. It was financial and legal war. They're trying to erase you, Harper said quietly. Not just from the marriage, from the family legacy. My fingers curled slowly into fists. Feel this. Let the truth carve the path. Deeper. Deeper. I'm not letting that happen, I said. Harper smiled, sharp and satisfied. Good, because I've already started drafting our counter-strategy. I repeated. You didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you? And for the first time since the nightmare began, I felt something like strength solid rising, indestructible. I stood. Then let's begin. Because they wanted to erase me. They wanted to replace me. They wanted to rewrite the terms of my life without me. But they forgot one thing. I write better contracts than all of them, and this time the fine print would be theirs to fear. By the time I left the office that morning, the sun had risen, but the world still felt dim, as if Los Angeles itself were holding its breath, waiting for the shift I was about to unleash. Traffic moved slowly, horns blaring, but none of it reached me. I was inside a different kind of storm. One I was crafting with my own hands. I drove home, each turn sharpened by purpose. Every red light gave me space to replay the words Harper had said. "They're cutting you out, Madison." They always intended to. The truth didn't hurt anymore, it crystallized. When I parked in our driveway, Ryan's car was already there. He must have come home early, maybe to check on me, maybe to manipulate me. Who knew anymore? I stepped inside, closing the door quietly behind me. He was in the kitchen making coffee, pretending like we were any normal couple. When he saw me, his face softened. "Madison," he said, "thank God I've been worried." Worried, right? I watched him for a moment. Really watched. The nervous twitch in his jaw. The restless fingers tapping the mug. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about control slipping. "Sit," I said. He blinked, surprised. "You want to talk?" "Sit," I repeated. He obeyed. Good people always reveal themselves when they think balance is restored. And if you push just enough, a little pressure, a little silence, they show you their softest, weakest parts. I poured myself water and leaned against the counter. "Ryan," I said, "I think we should be honest with each other." He relaxed instantly, mistaking my calm for surrender. "I agree. This whole thing is complicated, but we can still—" "I know about the trust I cut in." His face went blank, then tightened. "What trust?" "Don't insult me." A flicker of fear crossed his eyes, small, fast, but unmistakable. So I continued, "The one my father created, the one you're listed in, the one Sophie's listed in." His throat bobbed. "Madison, that's a misunderstanding. I found the documents," I said, "and I found the emails between you and my father. You've been planning this restructuring for months." His voice trembled. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think." I watched him while he scrambled for excuses. His eyes darted. His hands fidgeted. His breathing shifted. This man had lied so long he thought lying was a language. "You want to know the worst part?" I said quietly. "You all thought I'd sign whatever you put in front of me because I'm the reasonable one." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. And then slowly I smiled. "You picked the wrong attorney to underestimate." A crack rippled through his expression. Fear, then anger, then fear again. "Madison, you're overreacting," he said. "We're handling a sensitive situation rationally. You should appreciate—" "Don't finish that sentence." He froze, and inside me something cold clicked into place. Good. Feel that shift. Let him sense the control turning. "We're going to do this my way," I said. "Not yours, not my parents' mine." He swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" "You'll see." Then I walked away and didn't look back. The next 2 weeks were a quiet war. Harper and I met daily. Sometimes at the firm, sometimes at my house, sometimes in coffee shops where no one would think to listen. We mapped everything: timelines, accounts, potential crimes, public vulnerabilities, and slowly, surgically, we crafted the strategy. Step 1. Gather everything. Emails, financial transfers, corporate filings, confidential agreements, phone logs, patterns of communication. I cracked Ryan's laptop in under an hour. Not because I'm a hacker, but because he used the same password for everything. Blake 123 men like Ryan always believed their secrets were safer than they were. Step 2. Identify their pressure points. My father's land acquisition in Santa Monica, legally gray. My mother's funneling of money through shell charities, potentially dangerous. Sophie's history of mental health breaks that were actually rehab stays kept quiet. And Ryan? His startup was funded by angel investors who didn't exist. Or at least didn't exist legally. My notebook grew heavier by the day. Step 3. Stay silent. Make them think I'm complying. This was the hardest part, pretending. I answered my mother's messages with polite one-word replies. I nodded through awkward conversations with my father. I let Sophie think I was processing and being supportive. And Ryan, he became gentler, more attentive, more desperate. He brought me breakfast. He cleaned the kitchen. He left flowers on my desk. It wasn't affection. It was fear wearing kindness, like a mask. One night, he tried to sit next to me on the couch. "I'm glad you're doing better," he said softly. "I never said I was," I replied. He blinked, confused. "But you seem calm," I finished. "That doesn't mean safe." He flinched. and I let the silence sink deeper between us. Quiet, heavy, inevitable. 3 days later, my mother invited me to a family dinner. "It will be good for all of us," she said. "We need unity." Unity. They loved that word. I knew exactly what the dinner was: a test. They wanted to assess my compliance, gauge my stability, confirm their control. Perfect. I arrived at their house wearing black-fitted, sharp, unyielding, a silhouette of composure. Inside, the dining room glowed with warm lights and false peace. My father, my mother, Sophie, and Ryan, all sitting together. A family portrait I no longer belonged to. They just didn't know it yet. "Madison," my father said, "we're glad you came." "Of course," I replied smoothly. I sat. A glass of wine was poured. Food was served, small talk attempted. Then my mother cleared her throat, the Blake equivalent of drawing a sword. "Sweetheart," she said, "we'd like to finalize the agreement by the end of the month." I set down my fork. "Which agreement?" I asked. "The divorce settlement," my father said, glancing at Ryan. "And the public timeline," Ryan added timidly. "And your exit from the company," my mother finished. Their eyes locked on me, waiting, expecting obedience. I inhaled softly. Focus. Breathe. Let the silence pull them in. Deeper. Deeper. Then I smiled. "I think I said there's been a misunderstanding." Their expressions tightened. "I'm not signing your agreement." My father's voice dropped. "Madison." "No," I interrupted. "Listen to me carefully." 4 pairs of eyes fixed on me. "You tried to erase me. You tried to replace me. You tried to restructure the family and the company behind my back." I leaned forward, folding my hands. "But you forgot something." The room was so quiet I could hear Sophie's shaky breathing. "You forgot I'm the only one in this family who knows how to win without collapsing." My father slammed his hand on the table. "We're offering you everything you need." "You're offering me scraps," I said calmly. "And I don't take scraps." Ryan whispered, "Madison, please." I ignored him. "You've all made your moves," I continued. "Now it's my turn. And I promise you this, whatever happens next." I smiled, slow and precise. "It won't be graceful." The room froze, and in that moment, I felt it. The shift, the power, the quiet rising storm inside me swirling into full form. "This is the beginning," I whispered inwardly. "Go deeper, take everything, miss nothing." They wanted a contract. They were about to get a war. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are countless real-life betrayals, twists, and revenge stories waiting for you in the next episodes. The night after that dinner, I dreamed of falling glass. Not the violent shattering of an explosion, but the slow, inevitable cracking of a skyscraper, fracture by fracture, until the whole structure gave way under its own corruption. When I woke, heart pounding, I realized something. The dream wasn't a nightmare, it was a promise. The Blake Empire had been built on polished windows and flawless facades. But behind the glittering glass, rot spread through every floor, and it was finally time for it to collapse. Not with fury, not with chaos, but with precision. The way only a divorce attorney could make it fall. For 3 days, I barely spoke to anyone I worked. I gathered, I dissected. I watched patterns traced. Money followed digital footprints like breadcrumbs. I knew. I had one shot to break them cleanly, publicly, legally, irreversibly. Every betrayal left a trail. And I followed each one with cold, methodical patience. Ryan's startup. A web of false valuations, ghost investors, and manipulated projections. My father's land acquisitions. Dirty, strategically dirty. The kind that would invite state investigation. My mother's charity partners, shells, empty accounts, tax evasion disguised as philanthropy, Sophie's hospital visits, not therapy, not fatigue episodes, rehab, twice. One of the stays was documented under a fake name, and they thought they could erase me. Look deeper, see the invisible ink. You have all the pieces now. On the 4th morning, Harper called. "You ready?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Then come in, we're preparing the package." Package. That was her polite word for a legal grenade. By noon, everything was ready. Evidence files printed. Digital copies backed up in multiple encrypted drives, affidavits drafted, preliminary complaints prepared, anonymous tip forms filled, the press packet polished, one folder for the SEC, one for the California Department of Real Estate, one for the IRS Fraud Division, one for the Los Angeles Times, one for Sophie's rehab center. Should she pretend innocence? And 1. My favorite for Ryan's startup board containing enough financial misconduct to remove him in 24 hours. It wasn't just a plan, it was an ecosystem of consequences. Harper looked at me, tapping the folders. When we release this, there's no going back. I nodded. I don't want to go back. Good. Breathe deeply. Let the final step anchor you. Then there's only one thing left, she said. Delivery. I chose the battlefield carefully. Not a courtroom, not a boardroom, not a lawyer's office. A family celebration. Because nothing exposes hypocrisy like truth revealed under chandeliers. My parents had organized a small gathering to announce Sophie's pregnancy. Their attempt to control the narrative early and publicly, investors, partners, friends, neighbors, every face that mattered to their reputation. Perfect. When I arrived, the house buzzed with exaggerated joy. Strings of white lights, elegant floral arrangements, champagne flutes glimmering like promises. My mother saw me first. "Madison," she said, approaching with air-kissed politeness. "I'm glad you're here. We've prepared a toast, and—" "I know," I replied softly, "and I brought something too." She blinked. But before she could ask what, I slipped past her and stepped into the center of the room. Ryan was by the piano, looking nauseous. Sophie sat on a chaise, glowing with practiced innocence. My father chatted with investors, his face bright with pride. When they all noticed me, silence rippled through the room. Curious, confused, hungry. I cleared my throat. "If I could have everyone's attention," I said, calm as sharpened ice, "I'd like to give a toast." My father stiffened. "Madison, this isn't— It won't take long." I lifted a champagne glass, and the room obeyed. "Lean closer. Listen carefully. Don't look away now. Family," I began, "is built on trust." Eyes watched me. Hundreds of them. "And trust," I continued, "is a kind of contract." My parents exchanged looks. Ryan's face paled. Sophie's breath caught. "Good. For years I believed in that contract. I believed in loyalty, commitment, honesty." My smile sharpened. Unfortunately, none of those were upheld. A ripple of whispers. I reached into my bag. "And since this family values transparency so much, I thought tonight would be the perfect moment to share what I've learned." Then I took out the first envelope. For example, I said, "Ryan's startup has falsified investor reports, fabricated valuations, and used marital assets to fund off-book transactions." Gasps. Ryan's face drained of blood. "And my father," I continued, pulling out the next document, "has been acquiring land illegally under non-disclosed shell entities." My father stepped forward. "Madison, stop." "No." I held up the next folder. "My mother has been funneling money through charities that don't exist." My mother's eyes widened. She swayed as if the room tilted. "And Sophie," I let the pause stretch deeper, heavier, inevitable, "has been in rehab twice, once under a falsified identity paid for with Blake & Co. corporate funds." Sophie's lower lip trembled. Her eyes darted around as whispers became louder, sharper. Then I took out the final envelope. "And in case anyone is wondering whether these documents are real, don't worry." I lifted the envelope between two fingers. "They've already been sent to the board of Ryan's company, the SEC, the IRS, the Department of Real Estate, and 3 major news outlets." The room erupted. My father lunged forward, gripping the back of a chair like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "What have you done?" "What you taught me," I said. "I played to win." My mother whispered, "You'll destroy us." "No," I said gently. "You destroyed yourselves. I just removed the pretty wrapping." Ryan stepped toward me. "Madison, we can fix this." I looked at him. Really looked. The man who pretended to love me, the man who betrayed me, the man who thought he could replace me. "Don't beg," I said coldly. "It doesn't suit you." Sophie sobbed. My father cursed. My mother collapsed into a chair, and I felt nothing but clarity. Deep, cool, final clarity. I set down the champagne glass. "I'll have my lawyer contact all of you," I said, "regarding the real divorce terms." Then I turned away, walked through the stunned crowd, opened the door, and stepped into the night storm clouds gathering overhead, wind rising like applause. For the first time in years, I wasn't part of the Blake family. I was free. And freedom, I realized, was the only contract I ever needed.